Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 23rd installment of the MPF webinar series. Hard to believe, Uri, we've done 23 of these.
We started when we were young.
We did. We both had hair. And, it was a different day, but we are thrilled to have two exceptional managing partners joining us today to talk about firm culture and how to build an exceptional firm culture. John Harrity comes to us from Fairfax, Virginia. John, how are you?
Outstanding. Thank you, John.
Beautiful. And we talked about the weather, so give us the weather report for Northern Virginia this afternoon.
Beautiful, sunny, 81 degrees, picture day here in Northern Virginia.
That is a nice day in Northern Virginia, and thanks for the weather report. And Charlie Jimerson. Charlie comes to us from Jacksonville, Florida. Runs a firm, about 15 lawyers. And Charlie, how are things going down there?
Wonderful. Yeah, you don't have to, well, it's the summer, so we don't have to deal with anything other than big afternoon thunderstorms every day. But hey, in the winter, it's better because you don't have to shovel sunshine.
That is true. Uri, where are you today?
I'm in northern New Jersey, New York City suburb. And in the winter, we do have to shovel snow. So delightful 75 degrees, a little overcast, but beautiful day here.
Well, I'm sitting in Atlanta, Georgia. We were talking about how wet it's been this summer in the eastern seaboard and cooler than usual. And that's been the case here in Atlanta. It's 82 degrees today, which is unheard of for August. So people are out and about and enjoying the cool August weather here in hot Atlanta. We've got a great topic today and have been spending quite a bit of time with Charlie and John to kind of frame what we want to talk about. There's so much we could be chatting about in the context of firm culture. We're going to, as always, share some polling data. When folks registered, we asked you to, respond to a handful of questions. So we'll kick off by showcasing that data. And through the session, we have some live audience polling questions. And John Harrity contributed most of them. And so that's great benchmarking data to get a sense for what other mid-sized law firms across the US and other parts of the world are doing in terms of building and maintaining that highly exceptional firm culture. So delighted we had 197 folks registered today. We've been averaging anywhere between 120 up to maybe 150 people, depending on our topic. And so this one is up there among our top few. So glad so many folks are interested. This is an important topic.
Yeah, John, one of the things we hope we'll cover today is, how much the tightening labor market, particularly for good people in the legal world, is the backdrop to this law firm culture. I mean, it is incredible what I'm hearing, how hard it is to attract, retain top talent, and the firm culture is a big part of keeping them, isn't it?
Oh, I think it's all about culture that attracts and retains people. And I hear a lot from managing partners at mid-sized firms. The challenge is not so much of attracting and hiring, but retaining our young lawyers, our support staff is challenging. And COVID certainly throws a little wrench into the mix. So we are right here at the top of the hour. I'll go ahead and we'll formally get started. We are being recorded. This will be archived on our website. We'll send follow-up to all of today's registrants. We'll include a recording of our conversation. We'll include the handout material with the polling data that we collect and a couple other tidbits on our topics. So we're glad you're here with us today and delighted to present. Yes.
You just want to add me as co-presenter so I get the questions?
Oh, Uri, I always forget that.
Uri, so needy.
Because they're all married couple.
Isn't he though? And I hang on. Oh, yay. Panelist, co-presenter. No, I make you an organizer. There we go. So jumping right in
You did
here,
it.
our topic
Whatever you
today
did,
is
we're good.
building a truly exceptional law firm culture. And I think we'll hear from our panel that culture is really, really important, if not just about everything when it comes to attracting and retaining your talent. Meet Uri Gutfreund. Those of you who don't know Uri, he's our co-host. Works out of New York, New Jersey, risk management products to mid-sized law firms. And he's got communities of managing partners in New York and New Jersey that he runs. Uri, glad to see you.
Thanks, John. Great to be here. And you all know John. John is best known for strategic planning, stuff marketing, business development, succession, well known in the legal industry. And I'm delighted to be here and co-chair our 23rd, John, is that right?
This is our 23rd webinar of this nature. We'll run an hour, and as I mentioned, will be recorded, and we've covered a slew of topics. It's all archived on our website, and we've covered some really interesting things. Just some housekeeping announcements before we get started. Our webinar series, first Wednesday of the month, 2 o'clock Eastern, is what we've sort of latched into. We can't do the in-person events, so we've been trying our hand at some virtual conferences, and they've been quite remarkably successful. We run listservs, communities to help managing partners, firm leaders be more effective in very challenging, often ill-defined roles. Try to get a newsletter out on Fridays, and our first in-person meeting, fingers crossed, we're planning in Chicago. We're going to drill down on succession planning. For a full day, October 7th. We'll have a reception the night before on the 6th. But many of you on today's call, I noticed, are already signed up for our fall symposium. And if you're interested in this topic, which is another hot topic for mid-sized law firms, succession planning, take a look at what we're offering and consider signing up. Our website is managingpartnerforum.org. Today's program, we've got our introductions. We'll introduce Charlie and John very shortly. 192 was our registrant when I last changed these slides. Our topic, live polling, your questions. There's the ability to chat in some questions. When you registered, you put some questions out there that we will feed to our guest speakers. Uri, tell people real quick how to use the chat box and ask their questions live.
Sure. So in the toolbar, you'll actually have a tab there for questions, and that's the best place to put it. I'll be mining the questions as we go, and then when we get to the question and answer, I'll put it up to our esteemed panel today. So send those questions and we'll watch them.
We try to, introduce an element of interactivity through the questions and the audience polling. With this size of crowd, it's really, really hard to go to a Zoom format, get everybody on the screens. So we've stuck to this webinar format, and it seems to work pretty well. Folks love the banter. Will be very conversational, somewhat informal, and they love the data. So let's get started. Introduce John Harrity. John is the founder, managing partner of Harrity & Harrity. He'll tell you a little bit about his firm, some of their founding principles. They're a 40-lawyer IP boutique based in Fairfax, Virginia. John is passionate about law firm culture, and he not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk. He was a patent examiner before he started his law firm. And John, anything I'm missing that people need to know about you?
I think you nailed it.
Beautiful. Thank you for being with us, John. We really appreciate your time and your participation in today's program. As well, we have Charles B. We change it to Charlie a little later because that's how I know Charlie Jimerson. And Charlie is the founder and managing partner of Jimerson Birr. They're now a 15-lawyer firm in Jacksonville, Florida. Charlie started his career at Big Law, decided that wasn't quite for him, launched his law firm, and they have an interesting program he'll be telling us about called JB for Me that addresses a lot of cultural issues. And Charlie is a Gator like me. Go Gators. And one thing I kind of teased you, there you go, teased you yesterday in your bio, some of the things we don't know about you. And one is that you like dive bars, which I think is great. I'll meet up with you when we can.
Yeah, first beer on me, and you get to play the jukebox.
Sounds great. And Charlie, anything I've missed in your introduction that you think folks should know?
You nailed it, John. Way to go.
You guys are easy. I love it.
Easy
I
crowd
wish
today. Easy crowd.
all of our guest speakers were so easy to work with. You know, when you registered, we asked you a handful of questions. We've asked this question various iterations. Culture is damn important. And most of you all on today's call recognize, 95% of you recognize that culture is important. We hope to sway the one or two people on the call who don't think this matters much, but we'll be talking about culture. It should influence decisions and policies, but not as high as I might think. 57% say it's a very high priority. We asked people to use the one word best describe culture at their law firm. And this is very predictable. We've asked this question for a long, long time. And you can see collaboration, collegiality, family, overwhelmingly the words lawyers, managing partners use to describe culture at their firms. Uri, any reaction to that? And I'll toss that to you and to John and Charlie too. Do those words surprise you? Are they the wrong words that we should be using to describe our cultures?
They don't surprise me, but I guess the interesting, and every time we ask this people, those are the top words always, is that people sometimes think that's unique to their firm. And that's the consistency. People who say, what's the unique? Oh, we're collegial. I think we're going to hear some great stuff from John and Charlie today about how they've made it very personal at their firms. I think that's going to be the best part about today's program.
Hey, John, did these words surprise you?
No, they don't surprise me at all. I also have a lot of conversations with partners out there, and Uri, you're spot on with respect to collaborative. They think that's unique. They think having good people is unique for them. And it's like, what firm partner is going to say they don't have good people? I mean, really bizarre.
Charlie, your reaction to this collection of words?
Yeah, that's in line. I mean, I don't think it's anybody for anybody to critique how they describe their own culture. That's the beauty of your own shop, is that you get to establish whatever that culture is. Those words seem to be in line with values. If you would open up more word choices, I'm pretty sure you would have found the cliche "work hard, play hard" somewhere put in there. So
actually, this was an open-ended question.
Oh, okay.
We open-ended, and we just kind of collected
word
into a word cloud, and we asked for one word, and of course, there's a handful of people that don't follow instructions. So yeah, that was a very, very open-ended question, and it's amazing how consistent we hear these words. But do we live it? Do we breathe it? Do we have policies, procedures, forums in place to support this culture we say we're all about? We'll be talking about these issues today. Polling question, our first of several polling questions. And let me go over here to my little handy dandy thing. And this is mostly for Charlie and John. If y'all could tell us how many lawyers practice at your firm. And click 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, depending on firm size. And we usually get a pretty wide array of firm sizes here. A lot of it's driven by topic. We've got about 80% of folks in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here are our firm sizes represented today. So mostly mid-size, a handful of larger firms, 16% more than 100. So that gives us a sense of who's on today's call. And let's go ahead and start with John Harrity to tell us a little bit about your firm, what you're doing to build that culture, what your culture's all about. John?
Sounds good. Thanks, John. Welcome, everyone. Really appreciate you joining us today. As John mentioned, I'm John Harrity, one of the founders of Harrity & Harrity. We are a patent firm. We've been in business almost 22 years, and I can tell you that for about the first decade, we had zero clue as to what we were doing when we were running our business. And when it came to culture during those close to first decade, never gave it a thought. John, could you go to the next slide?
I certainly can, and kick me, John, if I need to advance.
Today, looking back, I think that was foolish. I know a lot more today than I did back then, and I truly believe that culture drives success. The culture that you choose should directly line up with what your firm's mission is. And so I kind of look at it as two questions. What's your firm's mission, and how do you plan on achieving that mission? If you identify your end goals, then you can work on creating a culture for your firm that's focused around those goals. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. But let me give you an example for us. So our firm's mission is to be the #1 firm on the planet when it comes to the very, very thin sliver of law in which we practice. What that translates to is a culture of positivity, innovation, constant learning, a focus on quality, and a focus on serving others. If you want to be the best, we must not only hire the best, but we've got to nurture those employee relationships to encourage growth, personal and professional, and the success of the individual. When you focus on the growth and success of the individual, that is naturally going to lead to the growth and success of the firm.
You know, John, for context, tell us about the founding of your firm and you know, a little bit about your practice, because you guys started from scratch, right? And so you had a clean palette to build your.
So I worked for about 1.5 years at a law firm as a law clerk. Started my firm. I took the patent bar, or took the Virginia bar. Went on a week's vacation, came back and gave notice, and then we started the firm within a month of giving notice. Paul, my brother, twin brother, is the other Harrity. We had zero experience running a law firm or any business. We had zero experience managing people, and believe me, it showed during the first decade that we were in business. We had no idea what we were doing, but we founded the firm on the right thing. When we asked the foundational question of why us, we determined quality was going to be our thing. If we focus on quality, the most important thing, we'll get clients and keep clients. So that's kind of how we got it started and kept us in business when we didn't know what we were doing.
What year did you start?
1999.
Okay.
So next slide. There we go. So as I just mentioned, right, for about a decade, we had zero clue of what we were doing. I'm sure we made every possible mistake that you could make. And a decade into being in business, my brother and I were very unhappy, not only with the culture that we had developed or not paying attention to it and what has developed around us, but also the direction of the firm. We had a culture of toxicity, and we knew that we needed to change. The thing is, we didn't know exactly what to do. So here's what we did. Back at that time is when we established our firm's mission that I talked about. And then we identified the behaviors that we would need from our support staff and professional staff to achieve our firm's mission. We then got group discussions going to influence the behavior and the performance of the team that we had around us. If someone wasn't performing from a job perspective, from a behavior perspective, we didn't immediately fire anybody, but what we did was this. We did everything that we could to lead to the person's success, which always included inside counseling. And in some extreme situations, we even hired external people to come in and work with these individuals. If it was a job performance thing, we tried to see if we had another seat on our bus for that individual. And if that seat didn't exist or they didn't work out in that other seat, then we did the only thing that we could do, and that was to help them find another bus, not ours, that was better suited for them. And John and Uri, in the beginning, I can tell you that what we did in the end of this was we gutted the firm and basically started over when we were about 10 years into doing business, and we gutted them one at a time. And it might sound like this was a quick fix to what we did, but it absolutely wasn't. 10 years of neglect. It took us about 8 years to right the ship and have the firm uniformly focused in the same direction. And when we started gutting the firm, We started with the head of the snake. One of our founding partners was the most toxic individual at the firm and was the first to go when we started gutting. For the audience, let me give you the secret sauce for and this is maybe the most important thing today, of having a culture that's in line with your firm's mission. It's all about hiring the right people. If you hire the right people who align with your culture that you want, you will create that culture. So you need to identify those qualities that would contribute to the culture that you desire. And then most importantly, you've got to integrate those into your hiring process. Next
John,
slide.
was there something, John, that happened? You know, sometimes did you lose a big client? What happened to give you that, to say enough is enough?
The triggering event.
Yeah, the triggering event was not losing a client. It was the behavior got so bad that we had to act, because guys, honestly, the fear was if we continue down the path that we're going, we're going to be out of business. And I didn't want to see us have to close our doors.
Now, John, again, for context, how many equity partners did you have when you embarked on this mission to improve firm culture?
Three.
Three. Including your founder who you voted out.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, my brother and I had a vision and moving in one direction, and he was moving in the total opposite direction of where we were going. There was no way it was going to be sustainable.
Was there a lot of yelling and screaming going on?
There was a lot of drama at the end that I probably will write a book about. It was a very entertaining book, let me tell you.
Thank you for sharing.
So let me dive into this one. So this is the flow of our very rigorous interview process. Less than 3% of candidates who apply for a position, support staff and professional staff at my firm, get job offers. I'm not going to go through this. I know the Q&A is the most important part, so I'm not going to go through this in detail. John's going to be providing my contact information at the end of this session. Feel free to reach out to me. I will walk through in as much detail as you want our entire hiring process. But let me say this before we move to the next slide. If you truly want to revamp your hiring process to ensure that, or greatly increase the chances that when you hire someone, they directly align with your culture, I can't more highly recommend a book called Top Grading. You can get it on Amazon. The author is Brad Smart. It's a must read if you want to transform your hiring process.
John, Top Rating, R-A-T-I-N-G?
Top Grading, T-O-P-G-R-A-D-I-N-G.
Gotcha. We will make mention of that in the follow-up email and link to the Amazon if people want to buy that.
Perfect.
Top Grading.
Next slide. Yep. So when you're hiring superstars, it truly allows you to achieve the impossible. Let me give you an example. So at other patent firms, an individual attorney drafting 30 patent applications over the course of the year is a fantastic year. If an attorney at another firm drafted 50 patent applications, it likely would be a firm record. Last year at my firm, our top drafting attorney drafted 142 high quality patent applications. I've had many conversations with partners at other firms, and I share my stats. I'm happy to even share the process that we go through, and a lot think it's impossible. I don't know how that could even be possible. It can't be done. And that's what hiring the right people allows you to do. You can achieve the impossible if you're going to be rigorous with your interview process. Next slide.
Now, John, you were mentioning as well, your clients are a pretty sophisticated lot.
Yeah. We represent
of the world.
patent 300 companies. So the top 300 patent getters are our clientele. We do not represent solos or small inventors. So these are very big, sophisticated clients who in most instances are licensing their portfolios. So the quality of the work is of utmost importance.
Gotcha.
So to wrap up my portion, so what does our culture look like? This is it. our people have life-work balance in a casual but hard-working environment. Our superstars attorneys, for those of you talking about remote work, they can work where they want, when they want, and how much they want. We've established a culture of positivity, personal and professional growth, a focus on quality, innovation, and most importantly, a culture focused on serving others. We do a ton of charity work, and it's kind of really the expectation for anyone joining the firm. If you're in the patent space, I'm sure you've heard of us. If you're paying attention at all, we are industry leaders when it comes to charity, diversity, innovation, and quality. And again, I'm happy to talk with anybody about anything I've talked about today. You can feel free to reach out to me, and we'll have a Teams or Zoom call.
Now, folks, mind you, this is a mid-sized 40-lawyer firm and having such an impact on the profession. And I find so often mid-sized, smaller law, oh, this is big law stuff. This is big law stuff.
Yeah.
We're all about autonomy, and we're a collection of sole practitioners sharing office space, and everybody kind of does what they want, how they want. But man, look what can be accomplished with vision and attention to this type stuff. So, John, thank you for sharing. Great story, and we'll learn more about what you're doing. We've got some polling questions that speak to hiring processes and all those good things, hiring the right people. So, John, thank you. Let me turn to you, Charlie Jimerson, and you can talk to us a little bit about what you all have going on at Jimerson Birr, and give us some context and what you're doing to build that exceptional law firm culture.
Sure. Thanks, John. John Harrity's a tough act to follow. So, we've had we're in our 13th year. We're about a 15-lawyer law firm, and we're full-service business law firm with particular emphasis on litigation. Our primary office is in Jacksonville, but we have outreach throughout the state of Florida. Most of our client base is emblematic of the Florida economy. And culture is obviously so important for us because we want to have well-rounded, fulfilled, professionally and personally fulfilled employees. And those type of people are going to be optimal performers, which transcend into great client service, which is what keeps our lights on for us. So culture hasn't always come easy. It's like anything else in life. You get out of it what you put into it. And so you have to work on it. And I kind of chuckle when people have culture problems, because with about 5 probative questions, I can normally diagnose it. And it's generally around, well, you're not planning to have a great culture. You're not putting together any type of programmatic things that improve your culture. You're not measuring the things that matter most to you, and obviously you're not driving reformational type of behaviors because you're not even taking the time to diagnose. Culture is that same way. So for us, we've had a good culture, but recently there's a couple of initiatives that we've been working on in the last couple of years where we really wanted to put a brand on it, and putting a brand on it for us was a lot. It was something that went beyond just a hokey marketing gimmick. It was about consolidating and focusing on the things that really matter to us, unifying the message, and providing fodder to be able to answer the question that you get on every single job interview that you have, every single applicant that comes through our firm. No matter what the position is, they're always going to ask the question, what's your culture? So we tried to put a brand on that, and that was a lot of what we have been working on culturally in the last couple of years. There was a bit of process that went into that. One of the things that we had to do was do that research that was both internally and externally to figure out what really matters to employees, not just our employees, but all employees at large. What are the things that move the needle for people? So as an employer, are we making sure that we're consistently checking all of those boxes? And if we're not, let's figure out how to. So this year we've really unveiled the JB for Me program, and The JB for Me program is really giving a direction to the type of employees that we want and the type of promises that we make to our employees. And we'll walk through each element of it, but generally we want fulfilled employees. We want employees who are opportunistic and looking forward to that upward advancement. We want refreshed and engaged employees. We want mindful employees who are stewards and trustees of their communities. And ultimately, we want empowered employees. And I'm going to walk through that and hopefully give you some real actionable things rather than just speaking in platitudes, because that's the thing that I really hate when these type of seminars, and you can get somebody that gets up there and pontificates about we're doing all these great things, but nobody walks away with a real takeaway. So hopefully I can give
that too, Charlie, is those specific action items that concrete.
Yes. So fulfilled. A JB for Me really starts with the probably the most overarching promise that we want to give to our employees, which is we want to give them happiness, both in their provide them a platform and conduit for happiness in their personal and professional lives. And so the things that we have to do to fulfill that promise is figure out what matters to them. And so monthly, we engage in a surveying process where we survey all of our employees on a myriad of different things. And I can kind of go through a little quick laundry list, but it's a 90-second survey that we have remarkable engagement from our personnel on, and we're consistently at the 90+ response rate. So we get meaningful feedback from people, and it's this progressive process where if you're satisfied with it, then you can move to the next question. If you're not, it pushes you through this path where you can provide more input. And so the things that, just for example, that we would survey on are work-life balance issues, workplace flexibility, health and wellness, their level of autonomy and empowerment, the adequacy of resources, the adequacy of company recognition, social responsibility issues, et cetera, et cetera. So we come up with a survey that each month that we go through. That survey then gets reviewed in our firm culture meeting that occurs once a month. Firm culture is comprised of people who volunteer for it, who want to be part of the culture crafting, but B, it's people at every level of our firm, all the way down to the part-time and transitional type of employees to the senior management. So we have good and equal representation in there as we collaborate on those type of things.
Quick question, employee, are we talking about support staff? Does that include associates, non-equity partners? Who are the employees that are being surveyed routinely?
Everybody, every person in the firm.
Completely equity partners.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Completely anonymous. There's no way for anybody to track any of that stuff. If there's ever an attempt in the culture committee meetings to try to pinpoint this is so and so,
I know who said that.
Yeah, we don't want that. We want to view that process as something that we can keep preserve the sanctity of.
And do you do separate surveys for the lawyers and the support staff, or is everybody all grouped together?
All grouped together, because it's important that's culture. You're saying, I'm not creating these this caste system and this fiefdom of power bubbles. No, these are the fundamental core values that mean a lot to us as a company, and nobody's voice weighs more than the other there.
Okay, beautiful.
So that's something that has been really I think the proof is in the pudding. I mean, statewide we've won best places to work 7 years in a row, and every objective accolade that you can probably get from a culture standpoint, we've got it, for whatever the hell those things are worth. But I think that what results is we have a lot of we're fulfilling that promise that we give, which is personally and professionally fulfilled folks. So next slide, John.
Yes, sir.
So part of the quid pro quo is to have an opportunistic employee. An opportunistic, weirdly, when we were kind of coming up with this moniker, we looked up the definition, and it has like this negative connotation to it. But we're like, no, we reject that definition. So the idea of an opportunistic employee to us is to have someone who is an ambitious Turk. You know, there's someone who wants to advance in their career, both in their aptitude and their responsibilities and potential. And so we view it's our responsibility to provide them with everything they need to do so. That entails providing them with a platform that has hands-on experience, a multifaceted training program that has both supervisory, departmental, and then non-associated with supervisor mentorship program. And that's kind of, we can get into that more at some point in time if necessary. There's multifaceted review programs, both at the conclusion of onboarding and then with annual training initiatives. And, you know, we have folks that are dedicated, that's their job, is to facilitate the training and advancement of folks, and as well as ensure quality assurance, quality improvement type of things. Last point on that before we moved into refreshed, that type of, one of the things that we have to ensure that we have adequacy of training is a learning management program where we have job descriptions that we try to keep as tight as possible, and we tether those job descriptions, every facet of those job descriptions, to either a work instruction or an SOP that's in written or video form, so that everybody has a resource to be able to understand what their job requires. Refreshed. This is my favorite part of our culture, and this is the part that we work the most on, and if we're doing it right, we have to work the least on. So a refreshed employee for us is someone who comes in happy and loose, ready to do their job, ready to engage when they need to. But lawyers are they're not wired that way. They are
happy and loose. Okay.
They're neurotic souls. They are tense, and they need to be, weirdly enough, they need to be taught on how to relax and have fun. And so I get it. Part of our job is to kick a lot of ass, you know, and that's what we work on most of the time. But we also want to really enjoy it, having a great time working with one another. So that requires work, a little bit of planning. So we have a part of our committee, you know, there's some things that we do from the community engagement side. We have competitions, we have structured socialization. So on any given month, we have all these really cool things that promote physical health, mental health, work-life balance. Just by way of example, I'll run you through August as programming. Physical events we have going on. We have a mini golf tournament where everybody's turning their office into a mini golf hole, and every year we have a theme. This year's theme, we picked a dance. So everybody who goes into your office has to learn whatever dance you have. I got assigned the stanky leg. I got to learn tonight what the stanky leg is, but I'm gonna make everybody do the stanky leg when they come in.
Now, Charlie, is there alcohol involved?
At each employee's discretion.
I see.
We do have a firm honky tonk where we have a tap keg and high-end bourbon, so you know that we're pretty flexible on that type of thing. But as long as everybody's responsible, you know, we have end of summer steak dinner with our summer associates. But we have all these little different things. We have a relaxation day where we're going to bring in chair massages and table massages. But all these low-hanging fruit things, which any of you out there can institute, like ice cream sandwich day, walnuts day, watermelon day, chocolate chip cookie day, root beer float day, Prosecco tasting, trail mix day. What's it cost for us to drop $30, $50 to open that stuff out, theme it, put it in the break room at 3 o'clock, and everybody, you know, all of the hermits get to come out from their office, have a moment to be a real human being, and then they go back to being a cyborg. You know, so you know, just to kind of, there's 10 things I didn't mention. We have a garage sale day where we're bringing in all this stuff that you might have that you want to get rid of at your house. And we're opening up a marketplace throughout our office, and I'm going to buy partner's old record collection or whatever, and all the money goes to charity. And so there's all these really cool things that we're kind of combining to just make sure that we're interacting with one another.
And is it your culture committee that comes up with this stuff?
Yeah, yes, yeah. It's very collaborative process, and we work really hard at the process of not taking ourselves too seriously.
You know, Larry Richard, we did a program with him about psychological impacts of COVID and how to help mitigate that within your firm. And he said there's one thing managing partners should be focused on right now that will have the biggest impact, and that's socialization. Socialization. The things you're talking about here, really important right now. We got this variant coming into the mix, but, this is stuff we should be working on all the time.
Sure. The M part of JB for me is mindful, and for us, we decided that we want engaged employees, or that at a minimum we want to give them the opportunity to be these servant leaders, to have the service orientation, both inside of work and outside of work. So part of the programming that we try to put together is an opportunity for our folks to engage in civic, philanthropic, and trade associations, and that takes many different forms. And if anybody wants kind of a playbook on any of this stuff, by all means, I want to echo John's sentiments. Contact me offline. I'm very passionate about this kind of stuff, so I'm happy to work with you or help you or any way I can. Best advice I can give to you is don't fake it. Whatever you're doing for your personnel, it has to be authentic. People see right through you if you're not authentic. So you can't fake passion. You have to love this stuff. You really have to love your people, and hopefully if you give to them, they'll give back to you in return. But on this side, on the M part, I think that it really it's us trying to organize our community outreach. And one of the things that we do, and I want to encourage you all to do as well, is we try to tether it to a marketing angle too. So you can have the best of both worlds and still be altruistic. To the extent that your lawyers are involved in trade associations, every one of those trade associations has a charitable arm associated with it. So if you're working with the manufacturers one day, or the trades contractors in contracting or in construction, those folks do things that they're doing independently. You can put your lawyers amongst their ranks, and you're getting networking, business purpose, and you're giving back. Look for those marriages, because those are healthy marriages.
No doubt. And I got to rush you along, Charlie, so we got some talk time here, so yep. I apologize.
I'll land the plane, no worries. So on the last part is empowered. We want all of our employees to be empowered. That takes a lot of different forms, but one of the forms that I can tell you that it takes is constantly doing quarterly resource audits. And that means going through and making sure all your people have all the tools to do their job. And that they not only resource audits is not only just your physical tools, is your tech right, is your systems and processes sound, but do you have the right communication channels in place so that someone who is ready to take that next step in their career and take on more responsibility, that they're able to take that responsibility on. So we have some ways that we engage people in that way, in that manner, and we promote that empowerment.
Now, I got to ask both of you guys before we kind of go into our conversation is, do you pay people to do this stuff for you, or are you guys intimately involved, giving your time, energy, and attention to these initiatives? And if so, how much of your time, effort, and energy goes into this sort of stuff? And Charlie, I'll start with you on that one, because you got a lot going on here. Who runs it?
Yes and yes.
How involved are you?
To simply answer your questions, yes, we pay someone. We hire someone whose their title is culture and engagement manager, and their job is to see all these things through and just to promote firm culture. We also have an ops related person who their job is essentially a business operations manager, and their job is to work on those training initiatives, work on those resource initiatives. And so we're putting our money where our mouth is.
Sure are.
And but because this was a strategic objective of mine, I just don't believe in the concept of leading from the rear. I laugh out loud at that every time I hear that stupid saying. So I try to get involved in those type of initiatives and lead by example.
Boy, did you catch that, everybody? A 15-lawyer firm with a manager of culture and engagement. How about that? Don't see it very often. I commend you, Charlie. John, how involved are you? And what kind of support staff do you have to administer your firm's cultural initiatives?
Yeah, we have a lot of committees. And so we've got committees that drive diversity, the programs that we're doing, charity, employee relations, everything, business development. We've got a ton of committees, and we don't have a full-time person like Charlie does that does any specific task in relation to culture or anything. It's the people driving that. And I've got my hands in, and if I don't, my brother does have his hands in everything and leading from the front. Charlie is 100% correct on that. Have to.
Beautiful.
We have a question. We have a question, John, that keeps coming
all right,
up.
Go for it.
And this is just a question that sort of, like I said, a bunch of people asked this question. You know, everybody was listening very carefully, John and Charlie, to your descriptions. The questions really were around, we didn't hear a lot about partners, associates, hours, billables. Is that not part of your culture? Or is that just in the background? You know, people really are asking, are you really a law firm in so many words? Charlie, you want to take that one first?
Love to field that one. One of the fundamental tenets of our law firm's culture is we try to objectify everyone's job as much as possible. So objectively measure performance. And then we I haven't seen a firm as transparent as we are as reporting individuals' performance. We not only, you know, and we report it in very simplified form. You're either red or you're green, you know, and everybody's goals are really transparent, and everybody across pretty much all the firm gets copied on the performance reporting regularly.
The associates get to see partner performance reports?
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's unusual.
And one of the, you know, what all this foo-foo fluffy stuff about, you know, we want to make people happy and we want to do all these really cool, fun things that we care a lot about. None of that happens unless we get the job done. We can keep the lights on. I mean, first rule of business, number one rule of business is stay in business, and got to hit goals to be able to do that.
Remarkably transparent.
And John Harrity, and if you could just add, John, to your answer, which is how many, you know, what's the right numbers in parlance? Is it partner? How many partners? How many equity partners, associates? Does it matter as you've tooled with it?
Yeah, so we've got 3 equity partners, we've got 4 non-equity partners, and then out of the 37 that we have, the rest are of counsel, associates, counsel, some of those titles. From an hours perspective, yeah, we do a tremendous amount of work. It is a hard working environment. So we do a ton of other things, and we get a lot of work done too. We do not set an hourly requirement for any of our attorneys. So they tell us at the beginning of the year, for budget purposes, here's what I'm going to work this year, and then we'll count on them to do what they tell us to do. There's no micromanaging. We do something maybe similar to what Charlie described with respect to kind of performance and tracking performance. We have individual scorecards for every position at the firm, and on a monthly basis, the manager of that group will check in and go over the scorecard. So it's a C, it's going to be an A, B, or C. C is below expectations, B is meeting, and at my firm, the expectation is exceeding expectations. Meeting expectations is failing at my firm. So so you'll know exactly how you're doing, so that when we do performance reviews, a more formal version once a quarter, you already know exactly how you're doing and where you're struggling and where you need to improve before I ever have a conversation with you.
Uri, I'm gonna jump in and toss a few polling questions. We talked about the importance of getting the right people on the team. And John, you had provided a couple of questions speaking to this, one of which was the interviewing process through which you put candidates. You put the number 3% of candidates actually receive an offer, and I assume you have a very, prescribed interviewing process. Talk to us about that, how important it is to vet candidates and how you go about that for cultural compatibility.
So we've got around, I think around 10 individuals that will meet with an individual candidate. And that same scorecard that I just talked about for evaluation purposes have a list of characteristics that will lead to success in the individual position that they're in. So when someone's applying for that particular position, we're looking at that scorecard and we're going to do focused interviews on all of those characteristics to understand kind of how they're doing in previous jobs with respect to these characteristics that will set them up for success. And part of it too, we'll grade the individual. So everyone individually that has this one-on-one focused interview on a particular topic, like working hard or hardworking or eye for detail, they'll grade the individual after they have their one-on-one with them. So very rigorous, and there's testing involved. And like I said, there was that one slide in my portion of the presentation that had the steps, and there's a lot of steps, and I'm happy to go through it with anyone offline.
I'm just rolling out some of the questions you provided about how many people does a prospect interact with during the interview process.
Do you want to show that answer, John?
Yeah, I'll come back to it. I've got a poll out here now asking about when was the last time your firm reevaluated its hiring process in any way. And if people would go ahead and vote early, vote often. I'm in Georgia. We know how to count votes. I'm going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. John, speak to us about evaluating your hiring practices. Is now at the time?
Oh, absolutely. It is the time to be doing it. You should be constantly reevaluating, especially if you're not having success with respect to hiring. I can tell you that, yes, less than 3% get offers. I'm not happy with that number. I'd like that to be 30%. So we're constantly reevaluating and testing things to see if we can run that number up, but still greatly increase that chances that when we hire that person, they're a superstar and they directly align with our firm culture.
So this is good data to see here that a lot of firms are taking a look at their hiring practices and trying to improve them to make sure they are hiring the right people. Yep. We talked a little bit about psychological assessments and the aversion of law firms to use them. Do either any of you all want to talk about that? There's that prior slide, by the way, where number of interviews, 43% put people through quite an interview process. But look at how many, 1 in 3. You're only talking to a handful of people before you get an offer. And John, I'm guessing you'd tell us that's not enough.
Yeah, I would tell you it's not enough.
Okay. Anything else about hiring the right people that you think is important before we move into engagement and retention and do a couple of polling questions around that?
I would just reiterate one thing that I said earlier is that identify the qualities that you're looking for in the individual and focus on those qualities. And I guess I'll throw out one other piece of the secret sauce. So when you're interviewing individuals, one of the things that we do, you don't know whether we're getting truth or not, right? Coming from an individual that's sitting there, they might just be having a great day and they're relaying things and can recall things really quickly. And we don't know if it's truthful or not truthful. So one of the things that we do is we're definitely going to get your supervisor's name at every position that you worked, and we're going to ask a lot of questions in relation to that. We're going to have you spell your supervisor's name, and we pose the questions. Let me tell you, we will 100% call that supervisor. And the way we pose the questions is, when we talk to John Smith, and we will, what will he say about your eye for detail? And when we call John Smith, it is not a formality. That might be the most important part of this interview process. John Smith, and we say, hey, Bob Smith interviewed with us. He said you would say this about his eye for detail. We get the truth. And when you couch it that way, it's, if you read Top Grading, he talks about that. It's kind of the kryptonite. They're going to review and they're going to tell you the truth during those interviews, and then we'll check it on the end. Really, really important part. Most people think this reference check is a formality. They don't do it. They'll accept a cousin or a mother as a reference. Bizarre to me. We're not going to call those individuals. We're going to call people that really know what your performance is like, and we will 100% be checking that.
Wow. And no psychological assessments.
We do
Yeah,
not.
those are-
Charlie was saying that he does. We do not do that. We've talked about it, have not pulled the trigger on anything yet. Charlie, do you want to talk about that?
No, we actually don't, but I want to. I have not got around to I'm scared of the results. It's probably going to tell us we're all waiting. But
You're going to be let go after everyone takes, and you're like, oh, crap, I'm out. Letting me go.
No, I do think there's value. I've studied that. I just haven't found a way to effectively institute it into our process. We've revamped our process to focus on the cash model of kind of a performance coaching tool, which is like think of a box: knowledge, attitude, skills, habits. We try to hire for attitude and habits because that's 70% of terminations in the workforce are tied into those issues. Most employers make mistakes of hiring for knowledge and skills. So we're really revamping and focus on the quality of the person that we're hiring. And we also review based on those exact same factors. So the same questions we ask in an interview are the same questions we review on.
I'm going to throw out a few more polling questions, everybody, and this speaks to reaching out to your people, touching base, their satisfaction, level of engagement. Really, really important right now during these uncertain times, many of us isolated. Are you reaching out on an ongoing basis to your people? John, you provided us this question. Speak to how important this is and how you go about doing it.
Yeah, so with people remote, this is critical. And I saw in the questions that were posed by the participants prior to, this seems to be a big topic for people. How do we control culture when we've got people spread out and working from home and all of those things? It's checking in, and it's checking in really regularly. So we have a management team made up of about a dozen of us that are either partners or managing a group of people. And we're doing regular check-ins on a weekly basis with every single individual at the firm. Someone is going to get a call every single week with someone from that leadership team. So I'm paired up with, I don't know, 7 or 8 different individuals. So I've got calls every single week for a half hour. We're going to check in. How are things going? And then on a quarterly basis, we're going to really dive into what's your job satisfaction on a scale of 1 to 10. Some people, as you guys know, some people will never give a 10. 9 is their max, and they'll say, oh, there's always room for improvement. So we know what their ceiling is. It's either a 9 or a 10. And if it's anything less than that, the next question that comes out is, what's going on? Is there anything that we can do to help move that up to a maximum number? And then we'll take action if the ball's in our court. And then the second thing that we check in with every single quarter too is life-work balance. What's your life-work balance on a scale of 1 to 10? Is there anything that we can do to improve that number if it's anything less than a maximum? You've got to be checking in with the people. You've got to make sure that they're aligned, they're happy with their job. And again, with superstars, it's sometimes there's just little nudges that have to happen, and you just let them achieve the impossible.
So what we're seeing here on the screen is not nearly enough.
No.
In reaching out, making sure your people are doing okay.
Yeah, this pandemic was tough, right? With people at home, you've got to be checking in with them all the time to understand how things are going.
Here's
John,
another question.
A question came in just about this related to how, is this part of the reviews? John, maybe, and Charlie, how is this stuff reviewed? Is it part of the annual review, ongoing?
No. So the weekly check-ins have nothing to do with annual reviews or quarterly reviews. They're checking in for really mental health purposes, relationship building purposes. We hired 10 attorneys last year. I've not met any of them in person. And I've had many, many phone calls. I feel like I'm really good friends with people that I've never met in person yet. And it's because we do not pick up the phone old school way. I'm going to see the person on the screen every single time, and we're going to talk face to face.
We're asking here about involvement in firm meetings, planning meetings, firm retreats, what have you. And if y'all haven't voted, please do so. Who's involved in these forums is our question. Charlie, what do you think's the right answer here?
I think it depends on the topic, but I tend to err on the side of inclusiveness of real stakeholders. I mean, so I found that if you call in a meeting where you invite the partners, but you don't invite department heads, well, half the partners aren't going to care. And then, that's just depend on the topic, so I don't think that your meetings need to be so large you get stuck in consensus building, and anybody that needs to have a voice and say in whatever it is that you're deciding, and then certainly some type of format and structure to it would be very helpful.
I'm intrigued. 12%. Anyone who wants to be. That's not a bad policy. Open door. If you're interested and want to engage, you're more than welcome. I'm looking here at the time, and as always, we run out. And one of the things we wanted to make sure we chatted about, Uri, I'll ask you to take the lead, is the problematic personalities.
Yep.
The underperformers and the bad actors, and how toxic they can be to this culture we're trying to build.
How's the way this was phrased? How do we encourage busy, hard-headed, and sometimes entirely self-centered attorneys to worry about and work on culture? I think that sums it up. How do you deal with that? And Charlie, John, take it. Whoever wants to take that one first.
Want me to go first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, John. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I look at it this way, right? If the individual is moving us in the wrong direction with respect to their behavior, that's a major problem. So for me, if I look at say timeliness is really important in probably all fields, right? If you're having a performance issue with respect to timeliness and we can't get that corrected, you've got to go. If it's a innovation, we've got a culture of innovation. You're not innovating. You sit in your office, you do your thing, you're not innovating. You're not hurting the firm by not innovating. I'd love for you to innovate. We move faster to our destination. The more people, the more thoughts that we get and the more ideas, but you're not hurting us. And so that's one where I leave that alone. I don't step in, I don't do anything about that. I'll invite you to some brainstorming sessions. Maybe that gets you thinking in that direction. But there's certain things at the firm that are, you're gonna get to a different bus. And there's other things that I'm okay if you're not gonna be overpowering with respect to innovation or one of our other things.
So not everyone needs to be a super cheerleader of the culture, but you certainly can't be negative.
Cannot be negative, no way, right?
Yeah, that's precisely the takeaway. It doesn't matter if you had at every meeting you handed out $50 bills. That you can't have somebody who's going to be complaining that it wasn't a $100 bill. That's the most important thing, is you can't have those type of people who are toxic. You're going to have lawyers that aren't engaged. They don't want to be friends with their coworkers, and as long as they're not actively bringing you down, you can actually tolerate that. I think it's incumbent upon us, if we kind of just step up to 10,000 foot here and realize we're charged as managing partners of the firm, and everybody's firm's a little different, but you're charged with being a leader in some shape or form, right? And so the thing that you have to do if you're an effective leader is find out what drives people, find out what their motivations are. And someone's motivations of being collegial with all the folks down the hall, that might not be what motivates them. Some people, you just have to find out what makes them tick. That takes time, that takes personal investment on your part, and then build diversified programming and platforms that makes that engages that person and draws that introvert out, or brings someone who's the busy, the cranky person, and figures out how they can contribute to your culture and your business in some other way, because everybody has value. It's just, and everybody's motivated by something. It's just your job as a leader to find it.
You know, one of the things I find myself saying from time to time is one of the most important contributions of managing partner is that of keeper of the culture, keeper of the culture. And your culture is defined in large part by what you're willing to tolerate. And what is your tolerance for chronic underperformance? What is your tolerance for rogue behavior, counterproductive behavior? Because, you know, if we start tolerating this, it starts to seep into our culture. And the longer we let it go on, the harder it is to reverse. So identifying these, you know, these problematic personalities and calling it out and offering help. But at some point, it might be better we part ways if this isn't going to be corrected. Uri, I'm going to let you have the last word here. We are out of time.
Thank you, John. I'm struck to end the way we started. One of the main takeaways is keeping talent, keeping them at your firm. It's not getting easier, it's getting harder. It means culture is that much more important. I think we've heard some great ideas from Charlie and John. No two firms are identical, so I don't think anybody in our audience is going to have JB for me. But I think they're going to pick a few things from Charlie and a few things from John, and I think pick up quite a few real nuggets here that they can implement in their firm. Pitch it to your partners. Choose the menu. I know, John, you're going to be sending the recording. Choose the ones that are going to be the most effective at your firm. And I think we had some great ideas, a great discussion today.
I love the idea of a culture club, you know?
Yeah.
Cross offices, senior, junior, get your staff involved in there and have fun with it, you know? I want to thank John and Charlie for their generous time and willingness to share and carry on these conversations beyond today's program. So here's everybody's contact information. So feel free to reach out, connect on LinkedIn. You know, join our community because, you know, we're here to try to help managing partners be more effective in this challenging role. So Charlie and John, thank you so much for participating in today's program. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next webinar will be on September 1st. So stay tuned. We've already got topics lined up for October and November. But we're still working on September. You'll be hearing from us. So thanks, everybody, for being with us. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you soon. John, Charlie, thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.